I didn't want to make this video. I didn't want to make this video solely off the fact that the same narratives this season have been pushing and have been constant. And I've never seen the Milan fan base in the 17 years that I've been following this club in a very in-depth look. I've never seen the Milan fan base protest more this season than ever before, right? There's that famous photo. It was like the game over, insert coin, and the Curva Sud is empty, right? Back in peak banter era. I've never seen the Milan fan base protest more than now, right? You talk about, remember the Milan 125th anniversary dinner where you had protests outside the event. You have, constant times where this season where the Curva Sud doesn't show up and they say just soak in this pressure on your own. And there's been so many times where this Milan fan base has backed the mediocrity of this current ownership, right? Where you look at the time where, right, we moved on from Pioli, right? This was an era where we were supposed to build upon, right? What did the management do? What coach are we going to bring in? Oh, let's bring in Lopetegui because that's a great profile to bring in, right? Guess what happened? Fans protested. They put out a whole petition. No Lopetegui, guys. No Lopetegui. They put out a whole petition because the fans knew that this was not the right coach to bring in. And thankfully, the management looked at that and you're like, you know what? Let's bring in someone else. Or, thank God. Who are we going to bring in? Let's bring in Paulo Fonseca. Name me one accomplishment that Fonseca has done. You can't name one because there is no trophies that he won. There was nothing that he built upon. There was nothing for him to earn this Milan job, right? Oh, he brought Marseille from 8th place to 3rd place. He brought, Roma from this, and this. He didn't do anything, guys. So it's like you're asking, why is this Milan management bringing in a guy like Fonseca where clearly he did more harm than good, right? You're talking about, okay, maybe, we beat Inter, right? That Gabbia header, we beat Real Madrid and everything like that. But you look at other times, right? Versus Inter, right? We go out on a high, everything like that. A couple games later, we go Fiorentina, those 2 penalty misses, right? That whole fiasco. They're taking the ball off of Pulisic to take the penalty, right? Fonseca didn't have the locker room. He had players against him constantly, right? That whole Leao and Teo situation where they were drinking water on their own, right? Against Real Madrid, right? Probably one of my favorite games this season, right? We go to the Bernabeu, absolutely wipe the floor with Real Madrid. Very next game versus Cagliari, drop points. So it's like the drop off, and you can even see the wounds from Fonseca still in this team because, like I said, we beat Real Madrid and then we lose to Cagliari a couple games, the next game later. Well, guess what happened recently? We go play Bologna in the San Siro, wipe the floor with Bologna in the cup final, right? Coppa Italia final. We lose and we play probably one of the worst games I've seen Milan play this season, right? Where you can't even get up and play a proper match in a cup final. Last time we won the Coppa Italia was 2003. This was the time where all these players could have etched their name in history, right? Even newcomers like Reinders and Pulisic win their first, I guess you could say, major trophy with Milan, right? Their domestic cup. But we couldn't even do that. We couldn't even get up for a final. So you're asking, why aren't these players able to get up and play for this final? Why? Because there's no leadership. There's no leadership in this team. There's no organization. There's no structure. There's no order in this Milan team because there's a bunch of prima donnas, number one. But number two, there's a management that is okay with mediocrity. Oh, it's okay. Forlani comes out. This isn't the season that we wanted. We didn't, achieve the goals that we wanted. Well, guess what, my guy? You are the one that is in charge of Milan achieving their goals this season. You are the one that is putting these people in charge of certain jobs in this team, right? It was your job, right, to find the right coach and the right sporting director when we moved on from Pioli. But guess what? You're 0 for 3 for bringing in new coaches because Fonseca left, right? You sacked him because you didn't believe in him, and clearly you didn't believe in him because of the clause that you had in the contract where we don't have to pay his salary. You missed on Conceição, right? Because you were saying, maybe we'll see what happens, right? Because if you truly backed Conceição, then you would have given him a long-term contract and you would have built on Conceição. But you didn't do that, and now we're moving on from Conceição. And I say 0 for 3 because of Lopetegui, right? Because this was the guy that you wanted to bring in, but the fans said no, went like this, and you're like, okay, I'll yield. So you're 0 for 3 on coaches. So what does that mean? You are clearly not the person to bring Milan in a position where they need to succeed. And we had way more success under a guy like Maldini, who you fired, right? You told him to kick rocks. And what has that done for this Milan team? It's done more harm than good. And not only that, you took out the person who probably knows Milan the best on everybody out of this planet. You told the guy who knows Milan the best to kick rocks, who knew Milan the best on the planet. Unreal. In what right mind did you think that, oh, sacking Maldini was going to be a good thing? Because it's done more harm than good. The players clearly do not want to play for the club anymore. There's no passion. There's no leadership in this team. And the thing is, what made Maldini so great is that he had that leadership. And even though he wasn't on the pitch, but he was the guy to keep everybody in check because he knew Milan more than anybody else. And he's won with Milan. He's seen the success. He's like, I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for the club, right? Because Maldini has the resume better than probably everybody in football history. And I'm not even exaggerating on that. Regarded as the best defender of all time, had Teo Hernandez playing at probably the best we've ever seen him play. We had the defense, right? That whole Scudetto end of the season run where we only conceded, 2 or 3 goals in the last 13 games or something like that. That whole run, that's experience, right? That is leadership. That is leading by example. And not only that, yeah, you could say, oh, Ibra helped in that way too. I don't believe it, because if Ibra had that same pull and that same kind of energy and that same leadership, then that would have translated onto these players, and clearly it is not. Advisor for what? What has Ibra done to advise this Milan team to do even better? Because to me, Ibra's done zero. Ibra has brought absolutely nothing onto the table for me to look at it and be like, I think Ibra is actually suitable for this role. Because clearly he is not. What is he advising? Because if Ibra was truly Milanista and if he was truly looking at this Milan situation, he would be like, this right here is a load of bullshit. Because it's like you're looking at who Forlani is bringing in, right? It should have been Ibra looking, why is Fonseca here? You need to get someone who's a winner, right? Because at Milan, we only win, right? We are one of the most decorated clubs in Italy. And now we're a joke. We're a joke in 8th place. So it's like, what Ibra is clearly not doing anything. He's collecting a paycheck, and he comes out and, he shows himself on TV and saying, oh, he only comes out when we win. He comes out on the good times. And that is not what a leader does. A leader is supposed to come out and support the team in the bad times and pick up the rest of the team. And that's what Maldini did. That is what Maldini did. He grabbed all these players and really built an established relationship with each and every single one of these players. And you know who I see the best quality out of everybody in this team is Florenzi. Florenzi, I see on the bench, and he's supporting, and he's just giving like that role, and he just gives that energy where he knows what it means to play for a club with your heart, right? Because at Roma, right, when Florenzi was at Roma, that is exactly what he encapsulated. And I feel like he kind of has that same similar relationship with Milan, right? And it's really nice that he won that Scudetto with Milan. And it's a real shame that Florenzi might be out the door this summer, because I feel like Florenzi really has helped a lot of these players and has really helped this team on a psychological point of view, right? Because it's like, I think that's what Florenzi does best, right? He has that, kind of banter and that kind of relationship with everybody on the bench, from the staff to the coaches. And there was that one clip going around where he was like shaking Conceição and everything like that. And that is exactly the person that we kind of need around in this Milan locker room, is somebody like that. And Zlatan is not that guy. And I feel like Maldini had that respect and he had that sort of energy going into each and every game. So you're asking, what moves is Jerry Cardinale going to make this Milan team go back to the top? And the truth of the reality is, guys, he's not going to do anything. Forlani is going to stay. He's going to continue to make bad and poor results, and he's going to make poor decisions going forward. And you're looking at it and the results show, because what has Forlani done in these last couple months, right? for us to gain his trust and to gain his respect, right? We went that winter transfer when we got João Felix, who's on his way out, and he doesn't bring anything to this Milan team. Kyle Walker, kind of on the fence about him. Not really sure how I feel about him, but I think we're going to move on about him. I think he did okay. I don't think there was anything crazy. And Conceição on his way out. Bondo, don't even know where he's at. Sotil, probably going to go back to Fiorentina. So it's like, what was the point of getting these players if, number one, we're not going to play them, number two, they're not going to have any value to us, and number three, they're just going to move on in what, 4 months, 5 months? Unbelievable. So the mediocrity I think that the fans have put up with is unacceptable because of every single time that each poor decision is made, guess what? The fans backed you. We as fans convinced ourselves that the mediocrity was the best that we could get, right? Oh, Fonseca comes in. Okay, we're going to back Fonseca. Not the guy that we wanted, but we'll back him, right? And, oh, he beat Inter, he beat Real Madrid. But then there were certain, kind of moments where we kind of turned on Fonseca a lot. And he definitely did not have the locker room, right? I think the moment where the best time to capitalize on Milan was when we won the Supercoppa, right? We beat Inter, we beat Juventus. And that was a time where we really needed to kind of stay together. But guess what? The locker room was still dispersed, got knocked out of Champions League, and so on and so forth. So you're asking questions. Who is going to be brought in, and is this change? Are these changes going to happen? I think these changes are going to happen, but I just don't know if these names that I want to bring in are going to come in. And it starts with the sporting director, Moncada. Thank you a lot. Your time is done, my friend. You're a much better scout than a sporting director, and that is something I'll give you credit on. And we're putting guys in positions where they are not going to succeed. And Moncada at the sporting director role clearly has not succeeded because more oftentimes than not, I'll say 8 times out of 10, Moncada hits, right? He brought in Reinders, brought in Pulisic, brought in a couple other guys, Alex Jimenez, and Fofana as well. Those are hits, right? Good on you. More oftentimes than not, they're misses, right? So it's like you're looking at it, put Moncada as like head scout or whatever the case may be. Who's a sporting director? Been linked with Igor Tade, been linked with Paratici, which those two names, I'm going to be real, do not excite me whatsoever. Because for me, what has Igor Tade done for Lazio, right? Okay, maybe he's brought in some players, but you kind of look at it. What did Lazio do, right? They were in Champions League here and there, right? Coppa Italia success with Inzaghi and everything like that. But that goes to how the roster is built. And in the Serie A, Lazio did nothing, right? They had that second place where they were kind of riding on that, and then the season after completely tumbled. I do not want Tade because I think that would be us settling. Who do I want? I want either D'Amico, right, from Atalanta, or Sartori from Bologna. Because you're looking at guys like that who have proper roster building resume, right? You look at this Bologna team, right? They got rid of Thiago Motta, Xerxes, Calafiori, probably the 3 guys that put them in a pole position in Serie A for them to be a proper presence in the league, sold all of them, made a profit, won a trophy, and now they have Vincenzo Italiano, who's one of the best coaches in Serie A, right? I'll say top 3, certainly. Won a trophy, like how I said, and they're getting the best out of players like Orsolini, who has a proper presence, and he's a leader, and he's someone who plays for the badge, right? You have guys like Frendrup, who are playing at a top level, Santiago Castro, also playing at a top level, and a couple other Bologna players that are kind of slipping my mind. And Doi, who's playing at a top level as well, scored against us in the cup final. That is somebody who I want in the position where, if this Milan team is maybe we could save a quick buck, but also bring in quality, Sartori is your guy. Or D'Amico from Atalanta. I think the whole kind of project from Atalanta doesn't need to be, mentioned because we know how great Atalanta is in terms of in the market, on the pitch, off the pitch, and everything like that, right? Just got a whole new stadium, right? They're a proper footballing club. And I think you kind of look at that, and that starts from who they bring in at the top. And for me, I think if D'Amico is at the epicenter of our roster build for Milan next season, then that is something that I would be very, very happy about, because it's like you're looking at it, the DNA of Milan, there's no DNA. The guys that, we had, right, who were leaders and who knew Milan from the inside out, right? Tonali, boyhood fan of the club, everything like that for his whole life, and we sold him, which a lot of the fan base was upset about, but we convinced ourselves that it was okay that we let Tonali go. But that sale has done a lot more harm than good. So who are we going to bring in? In terms of player-wise, I don't know. In terms of sporting director-wise, I don't know. But D'Amico probably is the person that I want to bring in the most to really have that presence in the sporting director role to make the right decisions. And with his resume, I'm confident that he will do so. Now for coach. I think there's been a lot of names. There's been Antonio Conte, there's been De Zerbi, there's been Italiano, there's been, I've seen Thiago Motta, Allegri. I think it's clear that the Milan management want to bring in an Italian manager, an Italian coach. So whether that's Gasparini as well, I think it'll come down to three names. I think it'll be De Zerbi, I think it'll be Allegri, and I think it'll be Gasparini. But I hate to say it, I think we're leaning a little bit more towards Allegri. And I do not like that because I don't think that Allegri is going to bring in anything more to this Milan team in terms of like our tactical football quality, because Milan has always been a team where we played good football and everything like that. And I think two coaches really just come to mind when I think good football. It's Gasparini and that's De Zerbi, right? Where Milan is so attacking and everything like that. That is De Zerbi's style. That is Gasparini's style. So I think that that's the main topic of discussion is who is this Milan management going to bring in? Mediocrity has to stop. The mediocrity has to stop. But at the end of the day, it's not in our hands. So we just have to hope for the best and see what happens in these next couple of months, right? I think the summer will be an interesting one, but we'll just have to see. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in. It's been Vincenzo. I'll see you guys in the next video. Ciao ragazzi.